Larry, sometimes the hardest people to help are the ones who know the most. You know, they've read the books, they've earned the degrees, they've built the career, and somewhere along the way, they started to believe that their expertise exempted them from the need for help. Not just the desire, but the need, right? That's competency pride. That's something that we're going to talk about today. And I'm really interested in having this conversation for you. Let's start off here. You know, when you hear the term competency pride, what comes to mind for you?
It's this sense that I can rest my pride and my identity on what I know and believe to be true. And it's how proud I am of the fact that I know all of these things and I'm competent. I actually think that our culture rewards the hell out of competence and it encourages the hell out of competence. And it, like if competency pride is one thing that I think is really propped up here, I think incompetency shame is the opposite. And I think that's a big part of this. I think they go together.
Yeah. Yeah, professionals, and especially people who have built themselves up as professionals in any industry, they don't want to be seen or believe that other people see them as incompetent.
Yeah.
There's this aspect of, you know, when we're talking with professionals, you know, coaches, clinicians, trainers, they seem to be really great at helping other people solve their problems and struggle to solve their own.
Yes. I've been there.
What's an example?
Putting my own program together.
What's challenging about that for you? Because I imagine there's a lot of coaches or trainers listening to this that are like, yeah, look, it's a heavy lift, but it's easier if I just do it myself.
Yeah. I think that the big one is that I just don't want to spend the energy to do it. But I actually don't think that speaks to the problem as much as the next reason, which is when you're writing for yourself, it's harder to be objective, period. You have on the one hand everything that you've already learned and become familiar with and have amassed evidence about, and on the other end, you're always on your learning edge of something new, and you're like, well, where do I go? Where do I start? What is most important for me to start playing with on myself right now? I think it's easy. I've been stuck there before.
Yeah. Well, the amount of energy that needs to be spent to solve that problem is disproportionate to the amount of energy it is to just keep doing the things that I'm already good at.
Correct.
I'm a squat dominant, so I'm just going to keep squatting. I'll throw some hinging in there, but I really like to squat.
Right.
So we're going to keep doing that. Why do you think that this one is so hard to spot, even for the experienced coaches and clinicians?
This idea of having a hard time doing it for yourself. Well, I think that a lot of times like we were describing, your expertise can hide your holes. I think that it's very easy when you know a lot to make assumptions about what you know. And I think that it's very easy to miss the things that are worth looking for.
Why do you think that this is a dangerous path for both the client and the professional?
The danger for the client is that you mean what's the danger if the professional is unwilling to or incapable of seeing this?
Yes.
Well, the danger for the client is that the client is going to get something that the practitioner has become entrenched in believing that might not have to do with what's the reality that the client's facing with right now. And the damage for the practitioner is that, well, you're going to accumulate more and more cases of you not serving people in the way that you should, and you're becoming more and more rigid. You're slowly hardening and crystallizing into someone that's no longer adaptable and fluid.
Yeah, like a dogma.
Yeah, exactly.
Gets created there.
Exactly.
There's an example, and we'll call him Alan.
Okay.
Right. So Alan is the coach with 15 years of experience. He's smart, capable. He's really respected in the field. He's been doing this for a long time. Obviously, he's able to produce results, but he's dealing with this chronic shoulder issue. Right. Every time he is.
I want to make sure that's clear.
He himself is dealing with this chronic shoulder issue, and when he gets approached or suggested that, maybe you should work with somebody, or you approach Alan and say, hey, Alan, I think we should work together because I really think that I can help you. He goes down this road of, I should be able to figure this out myself. It's literally what I do for a living. What stands out to you about Alan in that moment?
The first word that comes to mind for me is shame.
Say more.
Well, this is what he's experiencing is what we described upon opening this, which is, in my opinion, he's experiencing this perceived incompetency shame instead of pride of what he believes he ought to be competent about.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense to me. There's this, realistically, how common do you think that this is for professionals to feel like they shouldn't need help?
Feel like they should need help?
Should not
need help. I think it's probably more common than people care to admit. I don't know. I haven't taken a statistic on it, but I have seen a lot of people struggle with this surrendering to help. It's been personally and professionally in the past, there have been points where it has been hard for me to ask for help because I wanted to feel like I knew. And there's just a sense of, well, what does it mean about me if I don't? I've long since gotten past that. Not completely in the clear, but by and large, for the most part, I'm completely receptive to being pointed out as wrong almost all of the time. But so I think that a lot of people that are in this phase where they're trying to establish some sense of who they are and some sense of belief in what they're capable of and some sense in pride and fulfillment around what they can do for people and how useful they are. I think that along the way, it's hard to ask for help. Especially when your identity hinges on someone who is capable. Like by asking for help, you're inherently declaring that you're not.
Mm-hmm. Well, that word that you use there, I think, is a key log and a cornerstone here. It's the identity. It's not ability, right? It's the identity that seems to be challenged inside by having to ask for the support.
We're all incapable of infinitely more things than we are at any given time. Mm-hmm. So I think that there just needs some reframing around what it means to be capable of something and why that's not necessarily. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're dumb or you're unworthy of love or that you're a failure or that someone else is better than you. It just means that right now you don't know something that you would like to know.
How do you handle a conversation like this with Alan without triggering that defensiveness?
Well, when people are talking the way you are, it's not, and I don't like to. I wouldn't. The way that I would be approaching Alan in this situation is not by splitting hairs or going down any rabbit holes around any of this stuff. I'm just asking, like, hey man, like, is it reasonable to say that a lot of us know some things and don't know others? Yeah. The other thing I'm going to ask is it possible that just because there's so much you already know that it's just kind of hard to see your own face?
Can't see the forest but for the trees?
Yeah, or not even that. It's like the knife can't cut itself. So when there's basic agreement to that, I'm probably just skipping all the stuff in the middle, and I'm probably going to give my first test of readiness to change by just asking, like, would it be worth it to just have someone get after it? You might find that like 99% of what they did was stuff that you already knew was the right thing. I'm kind of like trying to like let him, feel like, hey man, you might know everything. You might have found that you just needed someone else to do it for you just because, this, that, and the other thing. But that's the first place I'm probably going to ask, like, is it worth it for you to continue where you are now? Or is it worth it to just have someone else take a look at it? Maybe see it from an angle that you didn't see. Maybe you ended up knowing 99% of it, but at least you got that 1% that you might have been missing.
How do you get to asking that question then? Because what I can imagine to be true is that somebody has that conversation and they assume that Alan's just being stubborn. How do you, what prompts you to go down that road and ask that question rather than be like, okay, man, you know it all. You got it. See ya.
Well, the first is, this is going to sound, I don't want this to sound soft or woo-woo or whatever it is, but I'm trying to always start with compassion in conversations for people's position. And the reminder to myself that all of us are doing the best we can with the knowledge, the skills, and the tools we have at the moment. So if someone's struggling with this right now, it's because they don't have what it takes to move past this on their own right now. That's okay. We all can't move past something at some point. So I'm starting with that. The most generous interpretation.
The charitable assumption.
Dr. Becky Kennedy is a child and like family therapist, and she talks a lot about the most generous interpretation in how you respond to people that are struggling with things. I like that a lot because it's not about you, it's about the person. And then when we can do that, I can then just start to remind myself that, well, at the end of the day, I have to remind this guy and grant him, if he doesn't remember, the agency to make a choice about what he wants to have happen. And if I ask the guy, like, is it worth it for someone else to take a look at this, just see it from another perspective? You know, maybe they saw 1% of the thing. If the guy says, nah, it's not, I'll figure this out eventually. Okay, your pride's in your way. Depending on the rapport that I have, I might ask, like, do you want your pride to stay in the way of this, or are you ready to do it? I would talk to you that way.
Sure.
I know that you would talk to me that way because we would appreciate that about each other. But if I don't know a person, I'm probably not going there.
So you're starting to, again, pull this back to the identity piece.
Yes.
And not just the skill set.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about this objectivity problem that people have, because you started the knife can't cut itself, right? Was one thing that you had mentioned there. Why is it that these expertise that we develop in these specific areas don't necessarily translate into self-treatment success?
Well, I think that, like we were describing, when it's personal, objectivity kind of disappears, right? So, like, I think that even the smartest, most capable people often or can struggle separating their emotions from their own situation. And so, a lot of times, it's very difficult to be completely. Actually, by definition, how could you be objective about yourself? It's almost impossible, if not possible at all, right?
That's enlightenment, right?
Right. So unless you're there,
if you are, please call.
If you're there,
please call in.
Yeah. What exactly? What short of total enlightenment? It's hard to be objective about yourself.
You've used this phrase in the past, professional blind spots, or the professional blind spot effect, rather. What does this mean?
Yeah, I think that's what we were just describing here. It's like you can only when you have a lot of information that you know, when there's a lot of expertise that you've accumulated, it kind of hides your weaknesses. It becomes easy to fall into habits and patterns and familiarity. When you become an expert in something, it means that you're becoming more and more efficient at handling better and better fewer things. Right? And when that happens, your brain is totally geared towards like these super, super efficient and fast and effective neural pathways that execute certain functions. And when that becomes the case, it's literally harder to come off of something that's been grooved, where all of this bandwidth has been allocated to this, like this over and over and over and over again. It's kind of hard to see what's hiding there.
Is that similar to when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail?
I think it's related. Yeah, I think it's related. I think that it would just be more like describing like, if you're a hammer, what are the other ways that a hammer's considering it can be used besides its flat surface hitting a nail?
So from an experiential standpoint, this could be like, look, I've had this problem before. We'll go back to Alan with the shoulder. I've had this before. This is what I did in the past to resolve it. It worked for a while, so I'm just going to go back to doing that thing. I
think that it's easy to assume that you're seeing the full picture, but it's important to remember that you could actually be missing critical context in any situation. And that's why perspective is so important. Can you actually remind, for those who didn't hear it, like what's the difference between perception and perspective that you described?
Yeah, so perception is how I view the world. Perspective is how you view the world, how others view the world. So right now, I am locked into my perception of reality. It's the area in front of it's everything that I can see. It's my experience. Perspective is taking in other points to come to a better conclusion.
Yeah.
So this is, in my interpretation, this is one of the greatest values that we can provide as professionals and coaches and trainers, is we can provide a different perspective to our clients who may be stuck in their perspective.
Well, I like the example that you had where it was, if there's a 6 on the table in front of us and I'm looking at it and it's a 6, to you it looks like a 9. Those are our perceptions. To the third person, they see it's both, right? So it's important to remember that there's another way to look at this, that'll give us important information about something.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're entrenched in your perception as expert, it's easy to miss those critical perspectives that would help us.
Yeah, and specifically in our, in our industry, in the fitness industry, perception is one of those things that we very often, as professionals or coaches or trainers, get locked into. We get trapped in a dogma or a methodology, right? It's, in my experience, it was CrossFit, right? That was the thing that everyone needed to do. My mother, everyone needed to do a competition. That was me locked into my perception of reality and my assumption that my experience is how everyone else should be experiencing the thing as well. And it worked for me. It's going to work for them. That's perception. Perspective is saying, okay, maybe, look, there is a place for that. And it worked really well for people. There's also a place for yoga that works really well for those people. Pilates, one-on-one training, assessing individual, like there's a place for all of these things. And that's perspective, is being able to see that, you know what, this whole game that we're playing, there's multiple ways. And there might be a different way to create a better outcome than the one that I see right now. That's perspective.
Yep. And I think that that's what's very, very easy to miss when you have gone so long being an expert that the blind spot's just there, and it's just easy to not even consider the perspective that would reveal it to you.
I agree with that. What role do you imagine ego plays in all of this? Because not necessarily arrogance, but the psychological need to preserve that competence.
Well, when we're talking about competence, ego's job is to protect your competency pride, right? It's to protect that. So if we're just thinking about this case, like admitting blind spots would feel like it would be admitting weakness, like even though just like the truth is as just being human, right? But I think that ego plays a dangerous role in this. To go back to your question about what's the danger of this, I mean, it protects your identity as someone who is competent and knows at everyone's expense. You don't grow, you don't learn, and your client might get hurt at worst, and at best doesn't gain as much as they otherwise could.
I think that's a really important thing to drill into, is that like the ego being the protector, and we all have this breadth of knowledge and experience, and us understanding that, look, just because contrary information comes up doesn't mean that it's right or wrong or my way is better than the other way. It is understanding that there might be something that I don't know right now.
Well, I think you have to be able to say that. And you have to be okay with even admitting that that's true. It's very, very hard for a lot of people to do that. And I think that's the first, what you just said, I think is the first step. To be able to say that is the first step. Because if you could do that, the world's your oyster now.
What's the difference between, so this leads really well, what's the difference between this confidence piece and over-identification with being an expert? Because look, a part of becoming the expert is to have the information and the knowledge. Yeah. How do we separate those two things and say, actually, the more confident individual is the one who's willing to ask the questions?
Well, I think that confidence is trusting your skill in the moment. Great. We all want that. The second is an over-identification with being right. And the importance of being right and what it means if you're not. What does it mean about you if you're not? What are people going to think? What decisions are people going to start making? What's going to happen to you? Like it all goes back to fear, man. It all goes back to fear about what happens if I am not, or what happens if I am, whatever the unfavorable perception is. Right? So confidence is, we all want a confident practitioner. But if someone's not confident about something in the moment and their ego drives them to pretend that they are because they need to preserve their image, that's a problem.
Yeah. I have a very specific example. I remember back early on in coaching, I confused a posterior pelvic tilt with an anterior pelvic tilt. And I remember coaching somebody up and was like, oh, the reason that you're doing is you have this posterior pelvic tilt, you have this dump, when actually she had an anterior tilt. And somebody, another one of the coaches in the class actually was like, actually, that's an anterior tilt. And I felt all of the sensations coming up, like, oh, fuck, I'm such an idiot. I'm so stupid. And I wanted to have like this reaction to it. And thankfully didn't. I was like, you know what? You're right. Thank you for letting me know. I think that's an example of where like the ego being the protector really pops up for you.
Yeah. Well, what did it do for you? And what did it do for the coach? And what did it do for the client when you said, thank you for letting me know?
It built more trust, I imagine, between all of us.
Well, what did it do for you as an individual to do that?
it allowed me to say, you know what? I did get that wrong, and that's okay.
Why was that okay for you?
Because I'm not attached to being like the smartest guy in the room, and I don't have to always be right. And there was certainly a period in my career when that it was not true. But I think you have to have those experiences to get the mirror placed in front of you so that you can make the decision for yourself.
I had, I think that we all need, I think anyone who's tended in this way all needs a good proverbial smack in the face about this. I think when I was 19, maybe 20, and I was doing some volunteer work, I was in an argument with this girl about something, and it was so stupid. Like, I was like, all right, I can fucking effectively split this eighth of a hair. Like, screw you. Like, I got you. And I remember it was the first time that she told me, and anyone had really told me straightforward, like, you don't have to be right all the time. And it was the first time anyone just said it like that. And everything was different on the other side of that. Literally everything was different. We had another 2 hours in a bus ride. I didn't say anything to anyone. I looked out the window and I thought about that for the next 2 hours. And when I got off that bus, I apologized to her. And everything about how I was different on the other side. And I've caught myself less and less and less, and fewer times since then, caring about that a little bit, and then just quickly reminding myself, like, oh, right, like, what are we doing here? And I'm very grateful that she said that then, because like 15 years later, I'm like looking for all the reasons that I'm wrong. And it's just such a more free way to be.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of power in I think everybody can smell bullshit and they just know when you don't know.
Unless you have COVID.
Yeah. You can't smell anything. I think they know when you don't know. So if you're trying to create the answer in the moment,
that feels horrible.
It feels bad for you.
It's embarrassing.
You think that, like, oh yeah, they're buying this. That's pretty good.
Yeah. No,
and it degrades trust.
No, they're not. You're done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why do you think in this case, the best professionals seek outside help instead of solely relying on themselves? You know, I had mentors. I still have mentors through the business. Coaches have coaches. I encourage our team to have other professionals who create their plan and their program for you. And they want that. It's not just like I'm telling them that they have to do that. So why do you think that the best do this rather than be like, you know what, I got this, I'll solve the problem on my own?
I mean, I think they just recognize that perspective is power. And like the best professionals are at the point where they care about results above all else, for them and for their clients. And they're at the point where they've just decided that getting perspective on this is worth more than competency pride. They don't want to let bias and habit and emotion cloud their judgment or the result.
I'll buy that. You teach something called the outside perspective audit. I'd love you to walk us through what that is and how a professional can use that in a conversation.
Yeah. So the general idea of this is that it helps clients see what emotion and habit make invisible, which is just the objective reality of a situation as far as we can see it.
What break it down. So there's steps to this, right? We have specific components. First is the blind spot identification. How do you help someone recognize what they can't see?
Well, the first one is by asking questions that indicate inconsistencies. So I'm looking for neutral questions that highlight inconsistencies between words and action. Like when you can find where your words and your actions are out of alignment, where you're out of integrity with what you're saying, that's where reality exists.
Would an example of this in Alan's case be, yeah, I can solve this problem on my own and still having the problem?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's there's more there because it's about, well, what's in the way? Like, is it that you haven't tried, or is it that you have tried and it's not working as well as you think it should? Right. But either way, yeah, I would say a more easy example of this is, someone saying they don't care what anyone thinks of them, but all of their actions indicate that they do, or even other things that they've said indicate that they do. It's a question around like, well, you've said this in the past, but I've also seen this. I'm having a hard time reconciling this. Is it possible that maybe you do a little bit?
Yeah, I think the powerful one of the powerful takeaways here is the way that you approach this is with curiosity and questions, which present the mirror rather than opposition, which could be the statement, which would be like, hey, what you're saying and what you're doing doesn't line up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a difference between seeking to understand and seeking to convince. And I mean, I would err on the side, anyone who's trying to influence anyone to do anything, I would err on the side of being a master question asker, not a master explainer.
I like that.
Yeah.
A More Beautiful Question is a good book if you're looking for a book on how to ask better questions.
That's the title of the book?
A More Beautiful Question.
I like that.
All right. So the second piece is this accountability factor. How does having external eyes change follow through?
Well, if we all know that we have decided we are going to hold ourselves accountable and be accountable to this working relationship, and we're going to defer to and trust someone's perspective, it makes it more likely that if someone else is pointing something out and you've already signed up for taking action in the direction of what someone has pointed out that you can agree with, that you're going to do it. Like, you're not signing up to continue your perception. You're signing up to continue getting feedback from this new perspective and to do things based on it. So if you signed up for that, which hiring a coach does, and you're bought into the process, you receiving pieces of perspective are going to help you take more consistent action instead of just wondering what you need to do.
Okay. This last piece here is this fresh methodology, right? So how does new thinking break old ruts?
Well, I think that anytime there's new information, it's disruptive in a good way. It could be. It depends on whether the new information is, it depends on whether or not the new information is relevant, first and foremost. And if the new information is relevant and it requires a change in how something was previously happening, then it's disruptive. And this fresh input can break stale routines. This is, in my opinion, what pushes experts past plateaus. This is what allows experts to start to see the blind spots that they missed and totally pivot how they practice. I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example from my situation. Like, when I was starting as a personal trainer, I was going to a local chiropractor in town here. His name shall not be spoken, who is like Snap, Crackle, Pop University. And his business model is, whatever number of a dozen adjustments a day. My mom and I had both spent years going to him. I was like, oh, this is the best. And then something changed that for me, and that's what brought me here. I believe that he demonstrated malpractice on me. I think that he adjusted me when I've asked 6 other clinicians about the context of his adjustment, and they said they would never in a million years ever adjust someone's neck that was showing that sign. And on the other side of that, it led me to find this and what we're doing now. And chiropractors that were saying, like, I adjust my patients like 1% of the time. And that changed everything about how I think about how the body functions and what needs to be done to solve problems.
That's an interesting takeaway from a client perspective.
Yeah.
Because
the good news is I was both a client and a practitioner. I just so happened to be that lucky, right? Yeah.
Well, to speak to specifically the client perspective, what I imagine can happen in a frame that might be helpful for us to remember as the professional here is you're going to have clients who feel like they've tried a lot of things, and by trying a lot of things, they have this assumption of information that, I've tried that, nothing worked for me. So they create this identity around I'm unhelpable, or there's nothing that's actually going to work for me, and this pain, this issue that I'm dealing with is just a part of who I am. So going back to asking all of the questions in the way that you did, I think can, again, provide them with an additional perspective that they might find themselves trapped in their current perception.
That makes sense. I agree with that.
All right. To wrap this up, the competency pride shows up when the identity of being that expert outweighs the outcomes of getting better.
Yep.
Is that accurate?
Yep. I would agree with that.
The most skilled professionals, they don't avoid help. They seek it. They curate it. If you could leave one takeaway for any professional listening to this, what would it be?
I would say that it's real mastery isn't doing everything yourself immaculately all the time. It's knowing what you're going to do really well and when it's time to let someone else in or for the process to change.
Would that change at all for you if you were identifying this in clients? Like if you were talking to a coach or a trainer or a professional clinician, whoever right now, would it change in how you would advise them to talk to clients?
Yeah, it would be, well, I think that there's a way for clients to be able to audit this for themselves, or individuals to be able to audit this for themselves more. It's looking for resistance to change. It's looking for resistance to feedback. It's looking for the proclivity to remain doing what's familiar and has become easy. And if you're opting for those things, I think it's worth you asking, am I just doing that? Am I just seeking familiar? As we've been talking, it's been a theme here. Am I just seeking what's familiar? Or am I actually making a logical decision about what I think the right thing is?
I like that.
Yeah, so it's really looking in the direction of resistance and avoidance.
Yeah, look, the further you go into your career, the more valuable an outside perspective becomes. Mastery isn't knowing everything. It's about knowing when to ask for help.
Yep. Well, I think that it's really important for you to restate that, or for us to restate that the further you get into career, the more important it is for you to get to help. Like, I agree with that a ton. Why do you believe that's true? I'm asking you directly, like, why do you believe it's true that the further you get in your career, it becomes more important to ask for help?
Because the things that I'm doing right now are the things that are working right now in the certain environment and the certain variables and circumstances that it contain in this experience right now. There's going to be new things that come up. And if I try to solve a new problem with an old solution, I'm going to get a 4 = 2. It's 2 + 2 = 5 now because I had the wrong inputs. If I'm under the assumption that the things that I'm doing now are the things that I always need to be doing, or the way I've solved a problem in the past is the way that I'm going to solve a future problem, I'm going to end up with, most likely, and it might work for a little while, but eventually, like, you extrapolate that scenario out far enough and you're going to end up with a less than optimal outcome. You're going to end up with the wrong thing.
I like it. The thing that stands out to me is if we're going to use a rather simple and maybe kind of crude analogy of just, solving a problem being cut effectively by a sharp tool. Like, a sharp tool is going to get the job done. The first question we have to ask ourselves is, like, can I be made sharper? Can I be made more sharp? If your answer to that is no, then you're done. You got nothing left to do. As far as I'm concerned, like, you got to decide, like, am I good doing things at this level forever, or should you get another job? Right. But let's assume that you decide, yeah, I can be made more sharp. Imagine trying to cut something with something that is completely round and blunt. That is what solving problems is like when you're a novice technician of any kind. You're just figuring out eventually I'll just beat this problem to death, or like, what's the entry point for the problem? It's very hard to find the entry point to the problem with a blunt, round object as opposed to a sensitive, sharp one. The more experience you get as a practitioner, the more complex the problems are going to come your way. And that means that you need to be more sharp at identifying the entry point to the solution. And if you're in a position where you don't believe that you can be made more sharp, that you're inherently deciding anything harder than this to solve, someone else should do it. But if you're someone who wants to get better at solving more challenging problems for people that come your way, then you need to be constantly ready to be made more sharp so you can have easier time finding what is the actual entry point to the solution. That's why, to me, it becomes more and more important. It's like when right now I'm dealing with the most complex training client I've ever had, the hardest case I've ever had. I've had some hard ones. We've had like 30 sessions, and there's been good progress made, and I'm still circling around the bullseye of the problem and how it's going to be solved. And some people might say, 30 isn't that much. And some people might be saying, here, you're 30 sessions in, you haven't figured out the bullseye problem. All right, man, like, I don't know, you come and do it faster than me. Tell me what you did. I'm happy to learn it. But that's why I think it's important for anyone, the further they get in their career, to be able to like what am I missing here? Like, where would you go here? Like, what would you look at that I haven't thought of? I don't know everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To round out your sharp object example, it's understanding when a scalpel is required versus a chainsaw.
Yeah, for sure. I like it.
And having the ability to use either, by the way.
Well, when the practitioner starts to think, well, if I just hope that my client doesn't find out that I asked for help. Well, like, why? If I told my client, hey, I consulted with 3 people that I really trust and they gave me these ideas and look, it's working. She's not gonna be like, oh, amazing. Can I stop working with you and hire them instead? Mm-hmm. I'm the person that's doing this for her. Right. She just wants me to know that I'm going out and getting the thing. She's not gonna be bummed that I had to ask for help.
Right.
So
thank you, Larry.
You're welcome.
I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Active Life podcast. If you did, please head to wherever you listen and leave us that 5-star rating. It really does go a long way. 5 stars goes a long way. Please leave them. If you're interested in working with us as a coach, remember, we help coaches from around the world build fulfilling careers, working with clients they're inspired to help so they never have to worry about being able to pay your bills again. No one's ever going to ask you if you are going to get a real job when you work with Active Life. All you have to do, head into the show notes, click the link that you find there, download our curriculum. That will give you a feel for what it is going to take for you to be successful. A team member of ours will reach out to you to find out if it's a fit for us to work together. Till the next show, turn pro.